Have you ever considered how the scars of narcissistic abuse go beyond emotional pain, seeping into everyday behaviors like eating habits? The aftermath of such trauma doesn't just linger in your heart, it can take root in your routines, your choices, and even the way you nourish yourself. Survivors often find themselves grappling with unusual eating behaviors, an unconscious attempt to regain a sense of stability and control after enduring chaos and unpredictability. While it might sound odd, these habits are more than just quirks. They are survival mechanisms born out of a desperate need to find comfort and order in a world that once felt overwhelmingly disordered. Today, let's explore some of these eating behaviors that many survivors experience, uncovering the emotional roots behind them and offering practical tips to move toward healing. The isolation of binge eating. Imagine being so overwhelmed by emotions that the only solace you find is in food, and only when you're alone. This is a reality for many survivors of narcissistic abuse. Binge eating in private becomes a way to soothe the pain, a momentary escape from the heaviness of their experiences. For some, it's not just about indulgence, it's about reclaiming a small, fleeting sense of control. Yet this habit often comes with guilt and shame, compounding the survivor's emotional struggles. Recognizing that this behavior is not a weakness but a response to trauma is the first step toward change. Rebuilding a healthy relationship with food takes time, patience, and most importantly, self-compassion. The deeper need for control. Another common pattern is overly restrictive eating. After enduring a relationship where someone else dictated their reality, survivors might channel their need for autonomy into rigid control over their diet. Counting calories, avoiding certain foods, or adhering to strict eating schedules might seem like discipline from the outside. In truth, it's a coping mechanism, a way to assert control in at least one aspect of life. But this rigidity can lead to other challenges, including nutritional imbalances and additional stress. Learning to let go of this control just a little at a time can be liberating. Start by introducing flexibility in small ways, like allowing yourself to enjoy a favorite treat without guilt or eating spontaneously when hunger calls. Emotional eating as a comfort. On the other side of the spectrum, some survivors turn to emotional eating. Food becomes a friend, a confidant, and a source of comfort when the world feels unbearable. Sweet treats, salty snacks, or hearty meals fill an emotional void, offering a sense of warmth that was absent in their abusive relationship. While emotional eating isn't inherently bad, relying on it too heavily can create unhealthy patterns. Developing other self-soothing practices like journaling, meditating, or engaging in creative hobbies can provide alternative outlets for managing emotions. A path to healing. Understanding these eating habits as natural responses to trauma is crucial. They are not character flaws or signs of failure, but survival tactics born out of resilience. The journey to recovery involves unraveling the emotional threads behind these behaviors, acknowledging the pain they stem from, and embracing healthier ways to cope. After experiencing narcissistic abuse, binge eating in private can become a way to cope with overwhelming emotions and stress. You might feel powerless or anxious, and food becomes a source of comfort, especially when you're alone. It's almost like you're trying to fill a void created by the emotional manipulation or neglect you experienced. According to Dr. Judith Olof, a psychiatrist, food can become an emotional crutch when you're trying to soothe wounds that aren't being properly addressed. The secrecy behind binge eating often reflects the need to hide your vulnerability, much like how you may have hidden your pain during the abuse. When life spirals out of control under the weight of manipulation and relentless criticism, survivors of narcissistic abuse often search for anchors to steady themselves. One such method is extreme calorie counting, an attempt to reclaim a semblance of order in the face of emotional chaos. While it may initially feel empowering, this coping mechanism is a double-edged sword that requires careful examination. Dr. Cherie Stein, a therapist specializing in narcissistic abuse recovery, sheds light on this phenomenon. She explains that survivors frequently seek control in areas of their lives where they can counterbalance the turbulence they've endured. For many, managing food intake becomes one of those rare domains where they feel they have full command. Counting calories, measuring portions, and adhering to strict dietary rules can offer a fleeting sense of stability, an illusion of mastery over the uncontrollable. However, this method of coping may come at a cost. Obsessive calorie counting, while initially providing comfort, often leads to further emotional and physical stress. It transforms meals into mathematical calculations rather than opportunities for nourishment and healing. Instead of fostering genuine self-care, it risks reinforcing the very patterns of self-criticism and perfectionism that the abuser instilled. So how can survivors break free from this cycle? The answer lies in intuitive eating, a practice that shifts the focus from rigid control to mindful nourishment. Intuitive eating invites you to listen to your body's natural hunger and fullness cues, reconnecting with your innate ability to eat in a way that feels satisfying and sustainable. Rather than being driven by external numbers, you learn to prioritize your well-being and respond to your body's needs with compassion. This approach is not about abandoning control altogether, but about redefining it. True control comes from understanding that your worth is not measured by the numbers on a calorie tracker. It's about embracing the idea that healing requires nurturing, not punishing your body and mind. Let's take a moment to reflect on a habit that many might overlook, but is deeply tied to emotional well-being: eating too quickly, often driven by anxiety. For those who have endured narcissistic abuse, this seemingly mundane act can carry layers of hidden meaning. Imagine this: your body, perpetually locked in a state of fight or flight, unable to find peace even during something as ordinary as a meal. It's as if the simple act of nourishing yourself has become a battlefield where anxiety takes the reins. You might find yourself rushing through meals, barely tasting the food, your mind fixated on an ever-present tension. Dr. Ramani Devasula, a renowned psychologist and expert on narcissism, sheds light on this phenomenon. She explains that anxiety often tricks survivors into feeling as though they need to prepare for the next threat, even when none exists. The result? Eating becomes less about nourishment and more about bracing for what's to come. This anxious urgency can turn into a habit, an autopilot response to the lingering stress. But here's the good news: you can reclaim control over this pattern. It starts with mindfulness, a practice that gently pulls you back into the present moment. Slow down during meals. Allow yourself the luxury of savoring each bite. Pause to truly experience the textures and flavors of your food. Let your breath guide you, anchoring your thoughts in the now and reminding your body that it's safe. By cultivating this awareness, you not only calm your anxious mind, but also send a powerful message to yourself: you deserve this moment of peace. Over time, these small, intentional acts can help transform your relationship with food and, more importantly, with yourself. Healing begins with the recognition that every moment, even something as simple as eating, holds the potential for renewal. Let us dive deeper into a phenomenon that many survivors of narcissistic abuse experience: the inability to finish even the smallest meal. Imagine sitting down to eat, faced with a plate that once might have brought comfort or joy, only to find yourself unable to take more than a few bites. This isn't just about food, it's a profound reflection of the impact prolonged emotional abuse has on both the body and mind. When you've endured narcissistic abuse, your system adapts to constant stress and tension, often remaining in a state of high alert even when there's no immediate threat. This hypervigilance seeps into every aspect of your life, including your ability to eat. Meals, which should be moments of nourishment and peace, begin to feel like a chore and obligation rather than a source of sustenance. You may feel as though your body is rejecting the very act of eating, but the reality is far deeper and more heartbreaking. Dr. Ramani Devasula, a renowned expert in the field of narcissistic abuse, sheds light on this struggle. She explains that survivors often carry an immense burden of anxiety and emotional exhaustion. This invisible weight disrupts their relationship with food, making the act of eating feel overwhelming. It's not the food that fills you up, it's the heavy, unprocessed emotions you've been shouldering for so long. Every bite can feel like a battle against the emotional residue of years spent in an abusive dynamic. Survivors may find themselves placing a fork down after just a few bites, not because their stomachs are full, but because their hearts and minds are still grappling with the aftermath of trauma. The body becomes a mirror, reflecting the inner turmoil of trying to heal wounds that are not visible to the eye, but deeply etched into the soul. This seemingly simple struggle with food serves as a poignant reminder of the profound ways narcissistic abuse reshapes one's life. It underscores the need for compassion both from oneself and from others as survivors navigate the challenging journey of rebuilding their lives, piece by piece, bite by bite. Imagine this standing at the kitchen counter, plate in hand, hurried bites, unable to sit down. If this scenario feels all too familiar, you might be experiencing a subtle but telling aftermath of surviving narcissistic abuse. Often overlooked, this seemingly trivial habit eating while standing can carry profound emotional significance. The roots of this behavior are tangled in the anxiety and restlessness that many survivors know all too well. When you've lived in an environment where unpredictability was the norm, even basic activities like sitting down for a meal can feel unsettling or even unsafe. According to renowned trauma expert Dr. Judith Herman, survivors frequently exhibit hypervigilance, a heightened state of awareness that keeps you on edge, perpetually bracing for the next disruption or threat. Eating while standing becomes more than just a habit, it's a survival strategy, a way to maintain a sense of readiness, even when no immediate danger exists. For many, the act of sitting down to eat feels like surrendering control, a vulnerability that might ignite discomfort. Standing, in contrast, feels safer, like you're prepared to react at a moment's notice, even if it's only within the confines of your mind. It's as though your body has internalized a rule: never let your guard down, not even during a simple meal. But here's the transformative part: you can gently challenge this pattern and create a new narrative around mealtime. Start by carving out intentional moments to eat in a calming, supportive environment. It could be as simple as setting a table or playing soothing music, but the key is to foster a sense of safety and presence. By allowing yourself to sit, to pause, and to savor your food, you signal to your mind and body that it's okay to let go, even just for a little while. This small yet significant act of mindfulness can gradually help you reclaim control, not through hypervigilance, but through intentional relaxation. Over time, it reinforces a powerful message: you are safe now, and it's okay to simply be. Have you ever found yourself obsessively flipping over food packages, scanning nutrition labels with unrelenting focus? If this sounds familiar, you might be grappling with more than just a concern for health. It could be a coping mechanism born from past experiences. Survivors of narcissistic abuse often develop this habit, driven by an underlying need to regain control in their lives after enduring prolonged periods of powerlessness. This seemingly mundane act of checking calories or scrutinizing ingredients may offer a fleeting sense of agency, even if it doesn't always bring the comfort you seek. Dr. Sherry Stein, a renowned expert in trauma recovery, explains that this behavior is deeply rooted in a psychological need to assert control over one's environment. When your life has been dominated by chaos and manipulation, even small decisions like choosing what to eat can feel like a vital reclaiming of your autonomy. For many survivors, it becomes more than just a dietary choice. It's a ritual of self-reassurance, a way to affirm that you're capable of making decisions that are good for you. Yet, this compulsion can be exhausting. Imagine the mental toll of evaluating every morsel of food, seeking reassurance that what you consume is safe or acceptable. It's not just about health, it's about anchoring yourself amidst the emotional turbulence left behind by abuse. While flipping over packages and poring over labels may offer a temporary sense of order, it rarely provides the lasting peace survivors yearn for. So, why does this behavior persist despite its challenges? The answer lies in the nature of trauma. When your life has been steeped in unpredictability and invalidation, Even the smallest forms of control can feel like lifelines. Nutrition labels become a tangible symbol of choice, a daily reminder that you have the power to decide what enters your body and, by extension, your life. While it may not heal the wounds entirely, it's a small but significant act of reclaiming yourself. If this resonates with you, remember the road to recovery is a journey, and every step, no matter how small, is meaningful. Seeking support and understanding the roots of these behaviors can open the door to healthier coping mechanisms, ones that nurture both your body and your soul. Because ultimately, the true freedom lies not in the perfection of your food choices, but in the restoration of your inner peace. Life after a narcissistic relationship often feels like a storm has passed, leaving survivors grasping for anything to steady themselves. Amid the debris of emotional turbulence, some find an unexpected source of comfort in a seemingly mundane act, counting every bite of food they take. While it may appear trivial to outsiders, this practice can hold profound meaning for those striving to rebuild their sense of self. Dr. Ramani Devasula, a renowned expert on narcissistic abuse, sheds light on this behavior as a coping mechanism. After enduring prolonged periods of anxiety, manipulation, and unpredictability, survivors often seek ways to reclaim a semblance of control. Counting bites offers a simple, measurable activity in a world that once felt entirely unmanageable. It provides an anchor, a moment of mindfulness, and a ritual that helps them feel grounded when the chaos of the past threatens to overwhelm. For many, this habit also reflects a deeper narrative about self-worth and appearance. Narcissistic relationships frequently come with an onslaught of damaging messages, tying value and desirability to physical appearance. Survivors may develop hyper-awareness of their bodies as a result, feeling a need to monitor and regulate every aspect of their physical existence. Counting bites becomes more than a number, it's a shield against the echoes of criticism and judgment they've endured. This seemingly small act symbolizes resilience and a search for stability in the aftermath of emotional upheaval. While it may not be a permanent coping strategy, it's a testament to the human capacity for adaptation. Survivors of narcissistic abuse demonstrate remarkable strength by finding ways, even unconventional ones, to navigate their healing journey. Every bite counted is a step toward rebuilding a sense of autonomy and safety in a world they are learning to trust again. Navigating vulnerability, the subtle art of avoiding eye contact while eating. Imagine sitting at a dining table, surrounded by friends or acquaintances. The clinking of utensils and murmur of conversation fill the air. Yet, instead of engaging with those around you, your gaze remains fixed on your plate. This behavior might feel all too familiar if you're a survivor of narcissistic abuse. Avoiding eye contact during meals is more than just a peculiar habit, it's a window into the underlying vulnerability many survivors experience. Therapist Dr. Cherie Stein explains that for those who have endured narcissistic abuse, maintaining eye contact can feel intimidating, even overwhelming. The simple act of meeting someone's gaze might evoke an uneasy sense of exposure, as if judgment or criticism is lurking behind every glance. For many, avoiding eye contact becomes a self-preserving ritual, a subtle way to shield oneself from the perceived scrutiny of others. By keeping your eyes lowered, you create a barrier, a protective buffer that allows you to focus on the act of eating, rather than the social dynamics playing out around you. This small act can provide a sense of safety in what might otherwise feel like a vulnerable situation. This habit is deeply rooted in the discomfort that stems from past experiences of invalidation or emotional harm. Survivors often grapple with the residual effects of constantly being under someone's critical eye, where their every action might have been scrutinized or belittled. As a result, eye contact, even in benign settings like shared meals, can feel like an invitation to relive those painful moments. Yet understanding this behavior is a step toward healing. Recognizing that the avoidance of eye contact is not a flaw but a coping mechanism can be liberating. It's a reminder that the journey to feeling safe and confident in social settings takes time and patience. With gentle self-compassion and support, it's possible to reframe these interactions, learning to embrace the connection and presence that eye contact can offer. In essence, avoiding eye contact during meals is more than a simple quirk. It's a survival strategy that speaks volumes about resilience and the ongoing process of healing. It's okay to take your time, to lower your gaze when needed, and to navigate the complexities of human connection at your own pace. Each meal, each moment, is a step closer to reclaiming your sense of self in a world that once felt unkind. Number 9. The compulsion to sip drinks between bites. Have you ever caught yourself reaching for your drink after every single bite of food? It might seem like a harmless quirk, but for many survivors of narcissistic abuse, this habit often carries a deeper meaning. The act of compulsively sipping drinks between bites can stem from an unconscious attempt to manage anxiety, calm frayed nerves, or reclaim a sense of control over the moment. It's not just about thirst or palate cleansing, it's about finding a brief pause, a small reprieve, in what might otherwise feel like a chaotic or overwhelming experience. Psychologist Dr. Stephen K. Sullivan explains that survivors often develop unique rituals around food as a coping mechanism. For some, meals may have been a battleground in the past, rushed or laced with tension, leaving them feeling vulnerable or out of control. The simple act of taking a sip offers a moment to breathe, a chance to slow down and recenter. That tiny pause becomes a shield, a way to ground oneself amidst a swirl of emotions or memories tied to eating. But here's the key: this coping strategy, while understandable, can inadvertently prevent you from fully engaging with the present moment. Instead of savoring each bite and relishing the flavors, the act of eating becomes fragmented, overshadowed by the need for that sip of comfort. It's as though the meal itself is put on pause, interrupted by an unspoken sense of unease. To break free from this cycle, start by practicing mindfulness during meals. Set your drink aside, even if it feels unfamiliar or uncomfortable at first. Focus on the textures, tastes, and aromas of your food. Let each bite be an opportunity to connect with yourself in the here and now, rather than being drawn into the echoes of the past. Gradually, you may find that those sips, once essential for a sense of calm, become less necessary as you reclaim your peace and joy at the dining table. In essence, the journey from compulsive sipping to mindful eating isn't just about changing a habit, it's about healing. It's about rediscovering the pleasure and grounding that can come from something as simple, yet profound, as sharing a meal with yourself or others. So, next time you sit down to eat, remember every bite can be a step toward wholeness, and every meal can be a moment of renewal. Understanding the subtle echoes of narcissistic abuse, the role of food and control. One of the most overlooked yet telling signs of surviving narcissistic abuse lies in the habits that quietly emerge, particularly around food. Among these, a hyper-focus on expiration dates often takes center stage. At first glance, this might seem trivial, even peculiar. Why obsess over the numbers printed on food packages? But for survivors, this behavior is far more than a quirk. It's a reflection of a deeper psychological wound, a coping mechanism forged in the crucible of unpredictability and emotional chaos. Dr. Ramani de Vasula, a leading voice in understanding narcissistic abuse, explains that hypervigilance is a hallmark trait among survivors. The incessant checking of expiration dates isn't about the food itself, it's about control. When your world has been upended by manipulation and inconsistency, you naturally seek anchors in the tangible. Ensuring your food is safe becomes one of the few ways to feel secure in an otherwise turbulent environment. This seemingly small habit provides a momentary sense of order amidst the lingering uncertainty. But here's the truth: healing begins when you start loosening your grip on these mechanisms. It's a process, not a switch you flip overnight. Letting go doesn't mean carelessness, it means gradually learning to trust yourself again. Begin by reminding yourself that you've endured so much more than an expired carton of milk ever could harm you. Slowly, you can cultivate confidence in your instincts, finding a balance between awareness and overvigilance. What's important to understand is that these eating habits aren't random, they're deeply tied to the trauma of the past. They reflect struggles with control, trust, and anxiety. For many survivors, food becomes a canvas where unresolved emotions are painted. But there's power in recognizing this. Awareness is the first step to rewriting the narrative. If this resonates with you, or with someone you care about, remember this: it's okay to seek help. It's not just okay, it's necessary. Healing is a journey that requires patience and compassion, both from yourself and from those around you. With time, awareness, and support, you can reshape your relationship with food and, more importantly, with yourself. So, to all survivors out there, you are not alone. Every step forward, no matter how small, is a victory. As you move toward healing, hold on to hope. A brighter, more balanced future is not only possible, it's within reach.